Welcome back to the Health Longevity Secrets Show with your host, Dr. Robert Lufkin. His book, Lies I Taught in Medical School, is now a New York Times bestseller. And now, please enjoy this week's episode as we explore the question, is fasting healthy, with Dr. Joseph Anton.
Have you ever wondered how you can achieve the health benefits of fasting? And we've all heard how great that is, but how can you do it without actually abstaining from food? Well, this week we explore this intriguing concept with Dr. Joseph Anton, who is the CEO of L-Nutra Corporation. Dr. Anton introduces us to the innovative idea of physiological or cellular fasting, where specific nutritional choices can simulate the body's fasting state. We delve into the popularity and benefits of intermittent fasting, particularly the 16-hour fasting pattern, and examine how our bodies switch from glycogen depletion to fat burning and eventually cellular rejuvenation through autophagy during extended fasting periods. In an insightful comparison, we pit fasting against the ketogenic diet, scrutinizing their molecular impacts on metabolic pathways like mTOR, AMP kinase, and RAS. Dr. Anton breaks down the complex stress response triggered by fasting, which not only downregulates growth pathways, but also boosts growth hormone, leading to muscle rejuvenation and cellular autophagy. While the ketogenic diet has many merits, particularly for short-term benefits, it falls short of the deep cellular and longevity advantages that fasting offers. We highlight the importance of a balanced, intermittent fasting approaches for achieving optimal health and longevity. In particular, we examine the transformative potential of the fasting mimicking diet through Prolon. This is the product that was designed to maintain muscle while promoting fat loss. Dr. Anton shares the physical and mental perks, including enhanced energy, performance, mental clarity, and even skin rejuvenation. We discuss how this Prolon product can seamlessly fit into long-term health plans, particularly for those with metabolic conditions, and even explore its potential for insurance coverage. Tune in for groundbreaking health insights and actionable advice that could change your life. This episode is sponsored by Cyfox Health. One of the most common questions I get asked is which blood tests I check myself on a regular basis. Well, I check 17 biomarkers, but the secret is I'm able to do everything from the convenience of my home. I collect a sample with just a simple finger stick like this. You don't need to be a doctor to do it. Then I just mail it in and wait for the results. Cyfox Health makes it possible. Use the link below to get 15% off. This episode is brought to you by L-Nutra, maker of the Prolon Fasting Mimicking Diet. If you'd like to try it, use the link in the show notes for 20% off. And now, please enjoy this week's episode. Hey, Joseph, welcome to the program.
Hi, Dr. Lufkin. Thanks for hosting me today. I do promise we're going to change somebody's life today. So that's stay tuned, guys, because you're gonna hear some new information that probably could change your life.
Yeah, the whole idea of getting the benefits of fasting without actually stopping eating. This is a fascinating topic, and I can't wait to get into it today. But maybe we could just start off just the basics. What is fasting, first of all? What do you mean by fasting?
Yeah, I mean, till today, or till say a decade ago, we considered fasting is the absence of eating, right? That was fasting, and it still holds true, except that there's a new fasting discipline that is called physiological or molecular also fasting. Meaning, yes, if you don't eat, you're fasting, but science has brought a new nutrition technology where you can eat food and the cells do not recognize it. So on the molecular and the cellular level, on the physiological level and the cellular level, the body is fasting, although you're ingesting food. So there's two definitions of it now. It's absence of food, that's the generally recognized one. And the science now discernates between that and what we call physiological or cellular fasting, which is possibly could be done with food.
And so before we get into the cellular fasting or the physiologic fasting, maybe just a moment, talk about what are the advantages of fasting? Why are
Yeah.
people so interested in fasting?
Yeah. There's two types of fasting, what we call intermittent fasting, which is anywhere between 0 hours to 2 days. Most people, the most frequently followed pattern under intermittent fasting is the 16 hours fast. So people skip breakfast, you have 12 hours overnight, and then you add an extra 4 hours to lunch, and that's called intermittent fasting or the 16 hours. But everything between 0 and 2 days is still intermittent fasting. Why the 2 days? After 2 days, we call it prolonged fasting or periodic fasting. So why the 2 days cut? Because the first 2 days when you fast, the body started using its reserves to compensate for the fast. So the body has first glycogen, these are reserves in the muscle and the liver and certain organs. It's easy for the body to go and tap into. I call those the checking accounts. If you don't have money, you go to your checking accounts first. Then the longer the hours, the body goes to the savings accounts, and that's the fat. So the body then starts tapping into fat. And if you go a little bit longer, the body asks the liver to borrow some calories. It's called neoglucogenesis. The same way when you deplete your savings accounts, you're going to ask the bank or you're going to use your credit card. So the first 2 days, you have enough reserve and you can borrow a little bit to go by. The problem comes when you cross the second day, is the body's telling the cells, hey, we're in crisis. We're depleting the reserves. And people love that because it means you're losing weight, basically. You're losing fat. And that has a lot of metabolic benefits, right? When you lose fat, you lose weight, blood pressure improves, inflammation improves, blood sugar improves, a lot of metabolic markers start improving. And this is why intermittent fasting became so popular. 73% of Americans are overweight, so intermittent fasting done right can help them. And there's over 90% of Americans with metabolic related health issues that also could benefit from it. Now, the magic happens when you cross the second day. When you cross the second day, the body is telling the cells, I'm sorry, I'm depleted. What shall we do? And you got to now go and find energy sources within the cell, and you got to optimize your functions so that we survive as a body. So the body has 37 billion cells, or a big number, and every cell though lives on calories, right? A cell doesn't survive without. So every cell, it's a very impactful phenomenon because every cell in the body is engaged, right? Typically, when you take a medicine, it impacts one receptor, it impacts one thing. Fasting is impacting most of the cells, if not all the cells of the body. And the cells are saying, I don't have calories, so I now have to go clean my inside, eat the debris, eat the organelles, whatever is left over, detox, improve my performance to survive. And this is what happens, if you have a company, again, you use the checking account, the savings accounts, you borrowed money, and now you look inside of the company, say, you know what, it's time to restructure. It's time to cut unnecessary spend. It's time to start doing some fixes. And this is what we call autophagy, self-eat or self-rejuvenate. It happens after day 2 of fasting and starts, really going significantly at day 3. Now, the longer you go, you restructure the company, then you say, I got to take a deeper intervention if still you're in crisis, right? And you start sometimes letting some people go. Sometimes you go and take a deep change in marketing and sales to improve the company and the revenues. The body does the same thing. It says, I'm suffering a lot. I just triaged inside of a cell how to detox, eat organelles, and now it's time to even kill some cells, the ones that are old, the ones that are, we call them the zombie cells. They're very old, they're very pro-inflammatory, they consume nutrition, but they don't produce much. So the body starts getting rid of cells that are not productive and pushes the younger cells to replace those, because the younger cells are very cost effective in the way they deal with nutrition. So that third phase of fasting is called regenerative fasting. So you're regenerating new cells. So first you lose the weight, then you rejuvenate inside of the cells, and then you swap old cells with younger cells. So if you look, this is magic for us because number one, weight and weight-related issues are 73% of us suffer from those. Number two, you're rejuvenating your cells. So you're reversing a little bit the bio-age of the body. You're a little bit younger. And the younger you are from the inside, the further away you are from the onset of age-related chronic diseases. And 90% of us today die from age-related chronic diseases. We're dying from diabetes, type 2 diabetes, age-related. We're dying from cancer, age-related. We're dying from Alzheimer's, and we're dying from cardiovascular disease. You don't get your first heart attack at age 20. You don't get your first type 2 diabetes at age 22, and you don't get Alzheimer's even if you have the APOE gene at age 25. You get them at later stage in life. So I helped you lose the weight. I helped you rejuvenate your cells. And at the same time, I pushed you a little bit backwards biologically. I created delta between your chronological and biological age, and therefore you're further away from your hitting a heart attack or hitting Alzheimer's or hitting cancer. And that's probably one of the best natural intervention that you can do for a person today to extend their health span. We don't know of any calorie restriction and fasting, probably the only proven today intervention you can do on a person to increase their health span. Of course, stress, exercise, the four other pillars, exercise, stress management, sleep, and happiness also help. But when I'm talking more about is a medical intervention or a healthcare intervention.
Yeah, it's truly remarkable. It just like blows me away how significant a role nutrition is, and some of the strategies you're talking about can affect virtually all the major chronic diseases that we face, from cancer to Alzheimer's to mental health to obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, as you mentioned, and ultimately affect our longevity. It's just remarkable.
I mean, fasting for longevity is now very well established, and medical fasting, what you're talking about. So not only is it prevention, but we're testing fasting with Alzheimer's, we're testing fasting with cardiovascular, we're testing fasting with diabetes. I mean, diabetes is a slam dunk. You get diabetes from accumulating weight over time and building up insulin resistance. Fasting reverses the visceral fat, so that's a home run. You become diabetic with age when you're losing muscle, your metabolic rate is decreasing, you're storing fat faster. Fasting brings you biologically younger. You become diabetic when you lose lean body mass. This is the engine that burns the carb. Fasting, the longer fast rejuvenates the muscle. So, diabetes is type 2 is 80% of it is lifestyle, and it's accumulating excess calories, and the best way, the fastest way to reverse it is to fast. I mean, it makes so much sense that I'm blown away why not more people try it. Now, having said that, why not a lot of people do it? Because it's difficult to fast for 3, 4, 5 days. It's very difficult. And this is why we came to fruition. It was University of Southern California doing the research on water fast first, and the National Institute of Health seeing the benefits of water fasting. And then when they went to human trials, it was impossible for people to fast for 5 days. And the National Institute of Health said, well, this is the first $10 million. Can you go? And they also donated to the company called L-Nutra that I work for, another few millions, and said, can you discover a nutrition program called the Fasting Mimicking Diet, Can you help people eat something for 5 days, but physiologically and cellular wise, the body is not recognizing the food? And that's how the fasting mimicking diet was born. It was born out of the necessity to make fasting the 5 days, not the intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting, you can skip breakfast. Most people can do that, but you're not going to rejuvenate your cells. You're not going to go biologically younger. You're not going to protect your muscle, etc. All these cellular benefits that we talked about that you have to cross day 2 and 3 to get. So out of that necessity to help people be compliant on fasting, to help them eat something, do it in a safe way, the fasting mimicking diet, and the product in the market is called Prolon, was born.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. And just a couple clarifications too on fasting, just the basics of fasting. On a molecular level, kind of diving into the weeds. One of my favorite topics is mTOR. Our audience has heard about mTOR from some of the other speakers, mechanistic target of rapamycin as a primordial metabolic switch between growth when nutrients are present and autophagy when they're not. Is this what we're acting on with fasting, or is it another mechanism?
I mean, that's the beauty again of fasting. It acts on every pathway. When you such an upward intervention, right? Because you can impact TOR with rapamycin, you can impact RAS with it. There's molecular intervention, but if you impact TOR, you say, I'll slow down your age, but at the same time, they're losing their muscle because the TOR pathway is for muscular growth, then bone density, then. So the beauty about fasting, it's a coordinated intervention on all the pathways. The TOR pathway is linked to protein and growth. There's the PK and the RAS pathways that are linked to also carbs and insulin. And they're both downward regulated when you're fasting. But this is the magic of the body. Because it's a stress, fasting acts, and this is one of the biggest conclusion I want here for people to understand today. It's not a calorie deficit only, it's a stress. And so growth hormone is high. So yes, you're downregulating mTOR, but there's a growth hormone as a hormone of stress that spikes with fasting and is pushing the muscle to rejuvenate. And this is why when you give the fasting mimicking nutrition, it comes perfectly on time where the muscle saying, I'm ready to rejuvenate and to grow and to be maintained because the growth hormone is telling me that. Whereas the cells are not going into a pro-growth because the mTOR and the PK and the RAS are downregulated. And that's the perfect switch where you maintain lean body mass with Prolon or the fasting mimicking diet while you're getting the rejuvenative and you're getting autophagy and all the benefits, cellular benefits of fasting.
Thank you. And one more point I want to clarify is some of our audience and many people are on a ketogenic diet where they typically a low carb, higher fat diet where they're in ketosis. And these people are saying, well, I don't need to fast. I'm in ketosis all the time. So what are the additional benefits of fasting that a person on a ketogenic diet wouldn't necessarily experience unless they fasted?
I mean, I would need a good hour to answer this because the ketogenic diet is very tricky, right? It's a diet that has a high value on the short term. If you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, yes, go low carb, yes, go in ketosis. If you have a brain condition, the brain loves the ketogenic state, yes, go on ketogenic. From a longevity perspective, the ketogenic diet is not a good diet from a longevity perspective. It increases fat in the body consistently and every day. So the cardiovascular system suffers from that. You lose muscle chronically with it. It's unless you exercise and you focus on the right proteins, because if you go animal protein, you're getting a lot of unhealthy fats that come with it, and you're pushing IGF chronically, which is a pro-growth, pro-aging hormone. So you got to be on a plant-based, ketogenic to mitigate that side effects there. All the chronic studies are not showing very long-term positive impact, but it's great for brain. It's good for pre-diabetes, diabetes on the short term. Then you want to go back and support the muscle and but just to compare the fasting mimicking diet, the ketogenic is a shallow fast because you're giving enough proteins. The cells, you mentioned it, right? Your cells in ketogenic diet are saying super low carb. They're saying, okay, PKA, RAS pathways, other carb pathways were downregulated, but there's enough protein. So the TOR pathway is saying, well, we are being nourished. So the cell is confused and it goes into a shallow fast. This is why the ketogenic diet puts you in a shallow fast. It doesn't dip fast like the fasting mimicking diet to put the cells into a crisis and to rejuvenate. So it's giving you some of the good metabolic markers. This is why we say ketogenic with diabetes, ketogenic with high blood sugar, but we never say do a ketogenic diet for autophagy, rejuvenation, fixing, supporting patient with cancer, supporting patient with Alzheimer's. So you're getting some of the metabolic effects and barely some because the IGF and the proteins are messing up with the true fast, and you're not getting the cellular benefits.
Yeah. So, yeah, that makes sense. So, I guess if we're talking about mTOR, then the ketogenic diet will keep mTOR turned on because of the protein in the ketogenic diet. So, if you wanted to make that ketogenic diet a fasting mimicking diet, you'd have to cut out the carbs which turn on mTOR, and cut out the protein, at least the
The carbs
leucine
are
and
already very low on
yeah,
the ketogenic. You got to cut
yeah,
out the proteins, right?
yeah.
And there's very important other thing is the FMD, the fasting mimicking diet, is just 5 days. We
Mm-hmm,
don't believe you should be in ketosis all the time, right?
mm-hmm.
We don't believe into that. There's no longevity trial on mice or humans or chronic, epidemiological studies on ketogenic that shows it's a long term, because there's cardiovascular side effects from it, and being always in ketosis. And guess what? The body runs on carbs.
Mm-hmm.
Carbs are not bad. The excess of carbs that we get because the new lifestyle, the new westernized last 40 years of eating all the time, calling Uber Eats in 2 seconds, eating late at night, carbs become bad in excess. But every cell of our body lives on carbs. We're designed to eat vegetables, fruits, nuts, etc., complex carbs. We're not designed to be half ketones and half mTOR, excited IGF, and the cell is saying, "What should I do? Should I switch on the rejuvenative and markers, or should I stay?" And so it's a from a cellular perspective, it's always confusing for the cell to be in a constant ketogenic, and it doesn't dip to rejuvenate the cells. From a metabolic perspective, being very low carb for certain people who are, again, at high risk of diabetes or have diabetes, or people with some neurological conditions, there's a short-term role for it for sure there.
So, you created this diet, this strategy that basically simulates a 5-day fast. And can you tell us how did you come up with that, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So we looked at how the body recognizes there's food on a systemic level. When you eat carbs, the macros, carbs, and well, fat is not recognized as a nutrient. It's a macronutrient, but it doesn't play with anabolic or catabolic. I mean, it accelerates a little bit if you give ketone-like bodies, accelerates a little bit signals of going catabolic, but in itself, it doesn't have cellular receptors for recognition of macros. So it's carbs and proteins. So we looked at when carbs goes into the body, insulin increase. Insulin is a growth factor. So insulin says, wow, there's carbs in the body. Let me tell the cells to take those carbs and grow, right? Because there's fuel in the body. Same thing happens when you get proteins. When you get proteins, IGF increase, insulin-like growth factor. They're both cousins, right? So there's fuel in the body, whether it's carbs or protein, and then the growth factors tell the body systematically, guess what? Insulin spiked, IGF spiked, we're in anabolic, let's grow, let's go off fasting. So the way we designed the fasting mimicking diet, it's sequences of carbs and complex carbs and sequences of amino acids that do not spike insulin and IGF enough for the body to say I'm an anabolic. So there's a mini spike, it's shallow and long versus a sharp spike that takes the body off catabolism. So that's on the systemic level. Then when you get on the cellular level, we studied the PKA, the RAS, and the TOR pathway, and at which level they get turned on or not so much turned on. And we make sure that the nutrients, by the time they get to the cells, are not over-triggering what we call the nutrient sensing pathways. So IGF, PKA, RAS, and other pathways, then these are sensing pathways. They sense the food, they sense the growth factor, and they tell the cell we're fasting or we're growing. If you don't trigger them enough, they think there's no food, they think there's no nutrients, and they're like, they're saying, let's protect, let's rejuvenate. We don't think there's enough food. So that's the secret of the fasting mimicking diet. It gives you nutrients for 5 days. It has macros, micros. It's all plant-based, lactose-free, soy-free, gluten-free, non-GMO, super high premium ingredients. So from a checklist, check, super healthy. No chemicals, no artificial additives, no whatever. It's a very healthy, clean ingredients diet. But the formulation has been studied to not overstimulates the growth factors and not over-trigger the cell so that the body thinks you're fasting.
And when people go on this 5-day fasting mimicking diet, what do they experience? Are there any side effects from it, or what does it feel like?
Yeah, so on the benefits, there are 5 categories of benefits, and then I'll talk about the side effects. On the benefit side, number one is we hear most patients say, or most consumers saying, it inspired me to change my relationship with food, because basically you're doing a 5 days very healthy meal plan, very regulated, size of a plate, and most of us think we cannot go without eating, couple or more big dishes per day, snacking late at night, addicted to Coca-Cola, addicted to sugar, addicted to a sweetener, especially late at night. It helps you change your relationship with food. Number two, a lot of people talk emotionally about, I feel very high energy. I feel at my best. I feel young again. I feel, because you're losing selectively fat. And probably this is one of the biggest secret or biggest benefit of the fasting mimicking diet. Again, we talked about we're nourishing the body. At the same time, growth hormone is high, so it's telling the muscle to grow, and you're feeding the muscle. It's not fasting on water with the fasting mimicking diet, it's fasting with nutrients. So there's proteins and there's carbs, and the muscle is maintained. So it's the only time where you're losing fat only, fat preferentially, and you're maintaining muscle. What happens when you lose fat, you maintain muscle, you have better energy, better performance. And there's a lot of actually professional athletes, NBA and others, that do the fasting mimicking diet when they're injured or when they're off season to rejuvenate and to cut fat and protect lean body mass. That's big and that's key. So that feeling of performance, of energy, is so important for them. And also that feeling of I succeeded, right? Because the problem with diets is you subscribe to them and there's like a never ending date. And guess what? You stop before, you have to stop one day, and you feel learned helplessness. The chronic diets are too difficult for people to adjust to. And we always say the fasting mimicking diet, again, it's called Prolon in the market, Prolon, is long enough to change your behavior, to give you a tiny win, a tiny habit, as BJ Fogg at Stanford says. But it's short enough that 93% of people complete it. It's just 5 days. So it's that balance of I inspire you to change and I empower you to change, and you could do it. And so number three benefit is that weight loss and muscle preservation. Number four is the mental clarity, is the focus, is the feeling younger, which a lot of people, just say, I've never slept any better. I never was so focused at work. I feel like I'm 10 years younger and I'm performing as such. And in order for us to show, we have proven cellular rejuvenation in the labs. We wanted to show visually rejuvenation, and we went and we did, and that's the fifth benefit. We went and we did skin studies. So we did a randomized clinical trial on people doing Prolon 3 cycles. For most people listening to us here, we recommend doing Prolon 3 times per year. So just 15 days, give us 15 days out of your entire 365 days. That's the protocol that helps the cells to rejuvenate 3 times. So we did 3 times. So one Prolon month 1, one Prolon month 2, one Prolon month 3, and then women measured before and after skin glowness, skin hydration, cellular rejuvenation. We did ERISA and other, objective device screening on the cells, and it shows rejuvenation in the cell and autophagy. And also we measured emotionally. People felt happier and more confident about their skin. This is the first time a food is doing a randomized clinical trial on showing skin changes in the body, which is pretty amazing, to show that your skin is the largest organ, and if the skin rejuvenates, it's an indication that the body is rejuvenating. So skin, although less medical but more true anti-aging, people love seeing their skin younger and healthier, and it represents their feelings. So that's the fifth benefit. Now, on the side effects, as we said, all the ingredients are plant-based, so there's no direct ingredient, side effect, unless you have allergies to any of the ingredients. So if you have allergies to macadamia or almonds, we have a good amount of macadamia and almonds, high in nuts, and or basically the rest is plant-based. The other side effect is, some people still would feel a little bit hungry or feel a little bit, and day 3 is the weakest day. Day 3 is where, again, the body is telling the cells, I went bankrupt and I want you to rejuvenate. So day 3, some people struggle initially, saying, well, I feel hungry today, or I feel something is changing. And by the way, the higher the pain, the higher the gain, because if you're metabolically inflexible, you've never been into like diets or ketogenic before, or then it's the first time ever that your cells are moving from consuming carbs to consuming ketones. So it's the first time your body is switching all these anti-aging slash fasting genes. And the first time is like, if you don't go to the gym for a month and then suddenly you go and you practice hard, you feel that pain after. So on day 3, some people feel that keto flu or the difficulty or the transition with that. But there's no ingredient related side effects. It's the side effects of fasting. Some people struggle a little bit on that transition.
And so to take it, you mentioned that people are taking it once a month, but to do it on a long time basis, you just do it 3 times a year, right? Once you've built up.
So we say if you don't have a metabolic reason, if your weight is good, if you don't have like blood pressure issues or cholesterol trigger, if you don't have it, or blood sugar, if you don't have a metabolic reason to intervene, you just want to take it to rejuvenate your cells and to live a healthier, longer life. Yes, you do it 3 times a year, so once every quarter. Now, if you say, you know what, I do carry some little bit overweight. I do have a little bit, I'm seeing my blood sugar a little bit, increasing. So I want the additional metabolic factors. Then you do it once a month for 3 months or 4 months, just to kind of get those benefits, the metabolic benefits. And then you maintain by once every quarter, just to go back to the maintenance regimen.
And you've mentioned several medical conditions that this can potentially benefit from, and I understand that insurance now, that there are some possibilities that insurance and payers may cover the cost of some of these for certain medical indications. Where does that stand now?
So for health conditions, we have a program where we have a dietitian, and if the patient doesn't have a doctor or the doctor wants to work with our doctors, we can offer that as well. And the program is centered around the fasting mimicking diet plus a guided dietitian that specializes in that health condition, and there's doctor supervision as well. And we have a program that we launched for diabetes. If people want to go and subscribe to it, it's called L-Nutra L-nutrahealth.com, and they can see the program for diabetes. We're going to launch cancer next year, and we're doing studies on autoimmune and Alzheimer's as well. Now, yes, there are few insurances and payers doing testing with us for potential reimbursement, both in the US and internationally. Now we have discussions about that. But we have also, in the meantime, developed what we call medically tailored meals, meaning food that we can send to your house every day that you can eat. This is not fasting mimicking. This is food tailored to your condition, right? If you have chronic kidney disease, for example, right? We have a food that is, low on phosphorus and potassium and other things that the kidney cannot, get rid of when you have a chronic kidney disease. If you have cardiovascular disease, if you have cancer, if you have Alzheimer's, we tailor your nutrition every day for that disease. That part, it's not fasting mimicking, it's medically tailored meals for daily consumption, is actually now reimbursed by 143 health insurance in the US. So wow. That's, the website is nutritionforlongevity.org. So nutritionforlongevity.org. So, sorry, for the medically tailored meals is N4L, nutritionforlongevityhealth.com, N4L health.com. And you can talk to your caseworker or your insurance, and they can let you know if you're eligible for reimbursement or not.
And what sort of conditions are those? That's fascinating. The food as medicine. What types of things would
we got approved for 32 out of the 36 health conditions. So starting from obesity, hypertension, diabetes, cancer, chronic kidney disease, HIV/AIDS, neurological, you name it, 32 out of the 36 codes for health conditions, we got to reimburse for all of those.
Well, so if I have hypertension, I could go to my doctor, yes. and then this potentially, depending on my insurer, but it might be reimbursed to have essentially all my meals taken care of until my hypertension goes away, hopefully, right?
Yeah, it's 5 days out of 7 that
5 out of 7.
5 out of 7 days, and no deductible, no copay.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah.
It took us 23 years of research. Literally, this company and all the foods that we're mentioning fall under either Prolon or L-Nutra, L-Nutra, longevity through nutrition. We're based on 18 universities doing randomized clinical trials, exactly how pharma would do that, right? So this is what they call as the first nutrition technology, or Nutritech, the same way they call biotech, the innovative pharmaceutical arm. And we've done over 2 decades of science to discover the fasting mimicking diet, to discover medically tailored meals, to discover interventions to prevent aging, or to slow down aging. We cannot just fully prevent it yet, but to slow down aging, and that's the longevity arm with Prolon, and or to manage or induce remission from chronic diseases, starting with diabetes, which we launch under L-NutraHealth.com.
And why isn't everybody using this now? I mean, this sounds wonderful, and in fact, the insurance pay for it even. Is it what are your challenges? Yeah.
So on the longevity side, we have over 1 million use of the fasting mimicking. Prolon just crossed the 1 million use. On the diabetes, we're literally launching now this February the program. So it's very new, but we had to pre-test it. Big success. So on average, 2/3 of patients with diabetes. This is very important because we've been taught, and I'm an MD PhD like yourself, and did the Harvards and did the top schools, and I was taught diabetes is a progressive disease, right? You just start with metformin, you add a drug, now you add Alamode, now it's the GLP-1s, and then after the pancreas fails, you add insulin, and then it's just a never-ending prescription that you have to refill every month. Now we're showing that within 6 months, 2/3 of patients are decreasing their dosage of medication or taking off one full pill in 6 months. And so we're going all the way for regression, meaning you need less medication, all the way to remission on some patients. And I strongly invite everyone here with prediabetes or diabetes type 2, go to L-NutraHealth.com. There's a path for you to go for regression, again, needing less medication and potentially remission, things that we haven't even thought about in diabetes when we went to traditional med school.
Wow, that is so interesting. And well, I want to be sensitive to your time today, and I appreciate you spending all this time with us. How can people maybe follow you on social media and hear more about Prolon? And you mentioned one website. Could you repeat those again for us?
Yeah, if you're interested in the fasting mimicking diet for longevity and cellular rejuvenation and weight loss and all the 5 benefits that we mentioned, you can go to prolonlife.com, Prolon, Prolon, life.com. If you're interested on the medical side, you have a health condition, and you want to ask us if we can help you with our programs, notably cardiovascular or prediabetes or diabetes, you can go to lnutrahealth.com, L-Nutra, N-U-T-R-A health.com. You can see, actually, it's behind me. And this is where the medical programs, are. Now, if you want just to eat healthy food every day, tailored to your health condition, you can go to N4Lhealth.com. This is where the medically tailored meals are at.
Right. Well, this has been fascinating. I think it's really opened a lot of possibilities for all of us out there, and things we didn't think were possible before. Well, thanks again, Joseph, for spending this time with us, and thanks for all the fascinating work that you're doing.
Thank you, Rob. And as we promised, hopefully we change somebody's life today with this information and or the products. And thanks for interviewing me.
If you are enjoying this program, please hit that subscribe button, or even better, leave a review. Your support makes it possible for us to create the quality programming that we're continually striving for.
Can I start? Is it recording?
It's already recording.
Oh, sorry. This is for general information and educational purposes only, and it's not intended to constitute or substitute for medical advice or counseling, the practice of medicine, or the provision of healthcare, diagnosis, or treatment, or the creation of a physician-patient or clinical relationship. The use of this information is at their own user's risk. If you find this to be on the value, please hit that like button to subscribe to support the work that we do on this channel. And we take your suggestions and advice very seriously, so please let us know what you'd like to see on this channel. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time. You should say that.
I think that was good.
Yes.
All right.
You need to save the recording.
Very good.